We are excited to have Chrisi Hammer here for our Friday conversation this week. She is the CEO and co-founder of Sunshine Buns, the fast-growing brand behind what's called the best cinnamon roll in the world. And we're so thankful she brought some for all of us to try today. And she's an expert in brand building and product excellence. She is leading Sunshine Buns to national recognition in the CPG space. Please help me welcome Chrisi today.
This is my good side, so I'm going to be on this side. Do you mind?
No, not at all. This is perfect. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being with us for the latest episode here of Friday Conversations.
Excited
Chrisi,
to be here.
thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to get to know Chrisi a little bit and talking before this, and her entrepreneurial journey is remarkable. And Sunshine Buns is just the latest thing you've been involved with, which is really awesome. I'm excited for you all to get to know her and kind of feel of her spirit and her family's spirit of entrepreneurship, the history of that in her family, how she grew up. I also just learned that your father, what was your father's name?
Jim Whitney.
Jim Whitney. Okay. He passed away a number of years back.
Yeah, I passed away in 2020.
Okay. What year did he receive the award for SBA Lender of the Year nationally?
Yeah, my dad was a pioneer in the SBA industry, which is quite ironic because he passed before I started either of my small businesses. But I think his recognition year might have been 2012, 2013. Maybe it was earlier than that. It was 2001. It was the year I graduated high school. So I was off, but he won a national award and went to our nation's capital and spent a week in DC. But yeah, he's a SBA pioneer.
Amazing. It was fun hearing your mother talk about that.
Yeah.
Clearly she's proud of that reality, and she had mentioned, just to share a little bit, that he loved seeing entrepreneurs come in, talk about their business, to make a case for lending and to receive a loan. And I bring this up in the beginning of this interview. I hope you don't mind that I did.
No, not at all.
Mainly because entrepreneurship, I've learned over time, really does run in our blood. But a lot of it is about how we're nurtured in our given community and in our homes. And so it becomes a characteristic, and it's a learned skill in a lot of ways, both mentally and by practice. And as you get to know Chrisi today and as we talk, I think you're going to realize it is really clear that reality was something that her father and her mother lived just by nature of who they were, and she clearly absorbed it. Because you're very talented, you get it, and you know what the grind is all about. So
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me a little bit, just off the bat. You and your husband Matt, you had a show on HGTV. Tell me a little bit about that, so that the audience can learn.
Yes, well, I was a stay-at-home mom. After many years of being a single mom, I finally met my sweet husband Matt, and the entire time we were first married, I was like, all I want to do is be a stay-at-home mom. And he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I'm sure. So I went to bat and I became a stay-at-home mom, and then I was like, oh wait, I actually want to do something. So he said, go, find a hobby, do something that like ignites something inside of you and gets your spirit moving. And so I started small, and I've always had an interest in interior design, and so I started flipping furniture on KSL and chalk painting everything in sight. If you remember chalk paint, it had a moment. And from there, people started asking me like, oh, hey, I think you should redo my living room or whatnot. And then, I got a little bit more and more confident, and then we bought our first house and tore it down and remodeled it in 38 days. And I documented the whole thing on Instagram. And I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months into the house, the Instagram page picked up a little speed. I got a notification that said, hey, I'm an executive producer for HGTV. We've loved your your journey on Instagram, would you be interested in having your own show? And I screenshot it and sent it to Matt. And I was like, oh, they probably want us on Property Brothers or Love It or List It. I don't know, And then we got on a call and they're like, no, we want you to have your own show. And I'm like, my own show? What are you talking about? I've just done this one house and, a couple little projects here and there. And they're like, no, you've got it. You're great. So we did this journey about 3 years of exploring, pitching. At this point, Discovery had purchased HGTV, so there were many hoops to jump through to get to the point where they finally signed off on us having our own show, and it did. It was called The Family Hammer. We're the Hammers. And it aired in February of 2021. We filmed the show in 2020 and started the process in 2018. So it was a long couple of years to get to that point, and it went very well. The show was canceled for a number of reasons that still don't make sense, but it all led me to this point. The show was great. We loved it. We had a blast doing it. And from there, after the show got canceled, we decided we could either continue with this business of interior design or just Matt goes back to working and I have passion projects. And we decided to dive in and just go. And that's what we did for the last 6 years. We've still been doing this interior design thing on the side, as well as growing Sunshine Buns about 3 years ago. So we've been doing both. But the show was a hit. It was awesome. It was a great experience. We loved every second of it.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
Okay, to kind of capstone on this, I do know from learning from you, and you just won Designer of the Year for Parade of Homes.
Yeah, I just won Judge's Choice for this parade home that I just wrapped up. It was a 2-year project, and it was a 12,000 square foot house, and it was wild and awesome. But they just announced, I don't know, a week and a half ago or so that my home won. So I'm like, this is my gold medal. I'm going out with a bang. I've made the tough decision that I'm going to leave that behind and put all of my efforts into Sunshine Buns.
That's a good segue.
Yes.
Perfect segue.
It's a good segue.
But before we leave that, there are still 2 more days. If you want to go see that home,
yes,
you can go check it out.
House 22.
House number 22.
In Orem. It is a beauty. If you haven't seen it, there's lots of beautifully designed homes in this year's parade, and I love them, but they're not homes that I want to live in. And this home, when you walk through it, you're like, I could live here, and that's always a great feeling as a designer to leave a project.
That's going to be a fun activity for my wife and I this weekend.
Yes, it is. It's going to be great.
Serious.
I can't wait.
We want to go check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, Sunshine Buns.
Yeah,
All right,
Sunshine Buns.
Let's dive in a little bit to its origins.
Yeah.
So it was built on your mother's iconic cinnamon roll recipe, right?
Yes. Mima.
She perfected it. She really perfected it over decades, as I've researched and as we've talked about.
Yes.
So share the story of Mima's Sunshine Buns and how it went from the family kitchen to the beloved Orem Cafe.
Awesome.
And we'll talk a little about more the things you're doing.
So in the 1970s, before I was born, my mom and my dad took a trip from Southern California to Salt Lake, and my mom had her first cinnamon roll. I don't know if you know this, but the origin of the cinnamon roll goes back centuries, but in America, it wasn't really prevalent until the 70s, 80s. And she had her first one at that old Marriott that was downtown. Remember ZCMI? I don't know if you guys are familiar, but she had her first cinnamon roll there, and she thought, I think I can do this. I'm going to go home and I'm going to figure this out. And something about my mom is that there's nothing she can't make in the kitchen. There's nothing she can't make. I mean, she can make cardboard taste like the best thing you ever ate. It's a unique gift that she has been gifted from God. But she went home and she got in the kitchen and she said, I'm going to figure this out. And really what's great about the Sunshine Bun is the dough. and she wanted it to be simple to make and delicious to eat. And so, yes, she perfected it, and it became a beloved product in my little hometown of El Segundo, California. And she would bake it and sell it for fundraisers and various gives back elements for our church and other community events. And it wasn't really a business until I got my hands on it in 2022. But for years, when my mom moved up here, I was like, we should do this. Like, we should do this as a business. And she's like, I'm in my 70s, so very much not interested, but you should do it. I'm like, no, Mom, we can do this. And she said, no, I'm really not going to do this. And I said, okay, fine. And then I turned to Matt, we should do this. He's like, honey, we've got an interior design business. We're quite busy. I'm like, okay, but I just really feel in my bones that we should do this. And then, of course, Crumble came. And I was like, okay, see, I said this was going to work. We should do this. And still, Matt's like, nah. My mom's like, nah. And one night, September of 2022, my best friend, Cass Martin, Brian Martin, and I and my husband were at the Hale Center Theater in Orem in the parking lot. And I looked at Cass, and she's got a million businesses, and Brian's got a million businesses. And I said, guys, what if we started Sunshine Buns? And Cass immediately looks at me, and we have this moment of like synergy, like, yes, this is gonna happen. And we don't even look at the boys. We say, okay, and she opens up her Instagram, and she gets the sunshinebuns.co page, and we buy the GoDaddy site for $35, and then we look at the boys, and they're rolling their eyes like, well, if the women are in, I guess we're in. So, you know, we go into the Hale Center Theater, and we're all four sitting there, and our wheels are rolling, mostly Cass and I. The play starts, and she leans over to me, and it's me, Matt, her, and Brian, and she leans over and she goes, Sunshine Buns, delivering sunshine one bun at a time. And that is our slogan on our box today. So from that night at the Hale Center Theater, really it was go. We decided that Saturday we were going to start selling
And
from
if
our
you haven't
homes.
seen how good these look, they're incredible.
Yeah.
And if you haven't tasted one yet, go get one.
Yeah, you'll get one. So
What a
that
fun
was sort of
story.
how it evolved, and we went on the gas pedal from that moment on. There was no break.
So this to me brings up a really cool reality and principle of entrepreneurship, because many people get an inspiration, and the vast majority I've learned just kind of suppress it.
Right.
For either because they don't know how, or they don't have enough time, or it's scary, or they don't have the resources. But there's something really unique about tried and true entrepreneurs, or even entrepreneurs just deep down that aren't tried and true. They don't say no to themselves. And they're like, we are gonna make this happen.
Yeah, I have a problem saying no.
And you just started doing this. This is incredible.
Yeah.
So, all right, today, it's going really well.
It's going great.
So you opened and started home deliveries in 2022.
Yeah, from that Saturday, really.
And you sold 18 dozen on your first day.
Yeah,
For people that don't know how many 18
that's a
dozen
lot.
is,
That's a lot for home.
Where were you cooking these?
At my house and Cass's house.
Okay.
And I took off to a volleyball tournament. No, cheer. And Cass took off to cheer. Volleyball. I was at cheer. She was at volleyball. And we said, well, I'll make 3 dozen and you make 3 dozen. So we left. We say, go live. And in 15 minutes, we've sold 18 dozen. And we're like, oh, crap. I'm in Kaysville and Cass is in I don't know where. So I call Matt and Cass calls Brian. And I'm like, you guys got to call me, Mom. So they're like, we have no idea how to do this. Like, what are you talking about, 18 dozen? And, of course, they had to be delivered that night. So I don't know. Cass and I were just like, this is going to be great. And then we left away. And then we said, all right, boys, we're so sorry. I don't know what we were thinking. Cass has a huge following. She has 500,000 followers on Instagram. Of course, we were going to turn it on. And people were going to be like, done. So we immediately shut it off. We're like, sold out. wasn't fast enough. So obviously the boys called Mima, who is here today. She's my biggest fan. Anyway, they called Mima and she got them all settled and set straight. And then I came home and we rolled out those buns and we got them iced and boxed and delivered just in the nick of time that night. So
When was the last delivery dropped?
probably 10.
10 p.m.
Yeah, it was way too
Although,
late.
no, I don't know. I think 10 p.m. might be one of the perfect times for either a cinnamon roll or a couple scoops of
Yeah,
ice cream.
I think we had like a 7 to 9. It will be when it is. And our last one was in Orem near Harmon's, and the guy was like, "Where are my buns?" And we're like, "They're coming, they're coming."
What a cool story.
So they came, and you know, we didn't miss a delivery. So
It's such a cool story.
yeah, and then from there it was every single day. We did that every single day for 6 months.
And you've bootstrapped this, to your point,
Yeah.
and you've gone from kitchens to bakeries.
Mm-hmm.
What is the biggest challenge you've faced in the early days? It's still early days.
Right, yeah.
It's really only 3 years
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So one or two of the biggest challenges you faced to share.
I think early on we really wanted to follow the crumble model. It was like, we're gonna copycat crumble, we're gonna do a rotating menu of flavors, and we're gonna open up franchises all over the world. And for whatever reason, in my mind, 2 weeks into opening the store and very much following this path, I was at a Holiday gas station and I saw the Dunford donuts and something clicked and I was like, wait, why are we trying to do that when we could sell for wholesale? That can't be hard. That's got to be super easy. So I rallied.
Can't be hard at all.
I rally the whole team up, and I'm like, guys, we should be doing this. And at the time, news was breaking that, you know, Alani had sold for $2 billion and Poppy had sold for $1 billion. And I was like, the process could be much more simple and controllable at home if we control our own manufacturing. And of course, none of us knew anything about it. So we opened up our bakery in August, and by September, we're like, we're going CPG, which for any of you that don't know, that's short for consumer packaged goods. So that's anything that you see in the grocery store, at Costco, really anything at Holiday. It's a similar thing. So, which we did get a Holiday contract within, I think it was 22 days after opening up our bakery. So that was a challenge, was shifting gears from being a franchise to a CPG model that we really had to work through. And it's very complicated. It's not easy, unlike my naive mind. It's not easy to change your business model essentially right after you've opened. And it's been a great challenge. Really, that manufacturing and trying to understand the complexity of that has been a big challenge.
And especially with food,
Oh yeah.
keeping the quality is high, because you cannot ditch Mima's dough and recipe process.
No.
It's critical, right?
No, yeah. And what's interesting is we were like, we're going to sell these fresh everywhere. And my mom kept saying, she's the expert. She's like, no, you can freeze these. And we're like, no, you don't know. She was like, no, really. I've been doing it for decades, guys. We're like, okay, so we freeze them, and then it clicks, and we're like, oh my gosh, we need to offer these in the freezer section. No longer waiting, no cracking open your Pillsbury or waiting for your Rhodes rolls to rise and all the labor that goes into that. We're like, we're just gonna bring this to the consumer in the freezer section, pop it in the microwave, and it tastes as good as Mima made it, and it really does. And so that was a challenge too, was shifting gears from fresh to frozen, and that was when things unlocked. Like, we went to our first food show, and the buyers were just feral for like, oh my gosh, what a cool concept. You know, we're just giving people instantly a cinnamon roll, which to this point hasn't been available for people, so.
From Pillsbury to Sunshine Buns.
Oh yeah. You
The
guys are
home
gonna
recipe
see.
from Mima, which
Yeah,
is
this
just
is
killer.
it. Yeah.
My first experience with this was last year at Silicon Slopes Summit and the Startup Alley.
Yeah.
You won the award
We
for
won.
startup.
We won
yes.
Startup Alley.
And it was an unfair advantage, because when you can get to people's hearts through food, it just convinces everyone.
Yeah.
But it was also fair, because
Yeah.
as the judges listened and understood what you were doing with the business. You weren't just showing up with cinnamon rolls. Because when I have to admit, when I first saw you
Right.
guys sign up,
Right.
come in, and you came in last minute, by the way.
Oh yeah, real last minute.
And I'm like, cinnamon rolls? Yeah, have cinnamon rolls come, as the team was asking. And I'm like, there's nothing complicated about cinnamon rolls in a kitchen. And then they started explaining all of this that you're working on,
Yeah.
and CPG and all of that. And it is a remarkable business.
Thank you.
Kudos.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
I hope it continues to just crush it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about the craft and the vision
Yeah.
as you're going forward. You've emphasized that Sunshine Buns isn't just quick sales, but creating a welcoming space. Can you talk a little bit about that? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, our shop, if you've been there, it's beautifully designed. I wonder who did it. And it's a really fun place to be.
An award-winning designer.
An award-winning
by the way.
designer.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. But I really wanted Sunshine Buns shop to feel like a place that you could be. You know, a lot of these quick service. I'm not trying to not crumble, because I love crumble. I think what they've done is remarkable. But there's no personality, or there's no like personal feeling when you go into a crumble. It's just like, I'm getting my cookies and I'm out.
You don't feel like you're in Mima's
right,
kitchen.
Right. I really wanted to feel like you're at home, you're cozy, you're comfortable. I mean, we have live music often, we have events at the store. And so when I was a single mom in Provo in 2010, 2011, at the ripe old age of 26, there was nowhere for us young people to hang out. So we'd go to Yogurtland until like midnight. And I don't know if you guys have been to Yogurtland, but there's like 2 tables there. So it's just spilling out with these Provo kids. And I thought, gosh, there's got to be a place to hang out. There's not. So we were like, we've got BYU and UVU. Let's make sure that Sunshine Buns is a place these kids feel like they can come and hang out and be and hang. And that was really early vision, was let's make this more personal and less about, of course, it would be way more cost effective to just have a storefront where you come and you pick up and you don't have to stay. But we really want Sunshine Buns to feel premium. And that is with the shop visit. It's the same, you know, whether you're getting in the frozen section, whether Mima happens to be there and you're getting it from her yourself, or if you're getting it from the actual store. I want the feelings that you have when you eat a Sunshine Bun in any environment to be warm, comforting, community, safe, loving, nostalgic. You know, that's what we're trying to capture. So
I think it's so smart, but it's also really honest and caring.
right.
There's where I live in Holiday, there's a local spot called the Fox Market now. Good friends of mine, Tom and Kara Fox, and I'm sure you've been in there.
Yes.
Kara's dream was a really friendly place for kids post-school during the summer to just feel like they're at home and come in and get a good treat and be around. And so Sunshine Buns is nailing that same thing
Yeah.
and doing it at scale. And
Yeah.
it's going to be really fun to watch and continue. You know, you mentioned something that it's a soft spot for me, single moms and not having a place and community. Can you talk a little bit about how that has really propelled you in some of your decisions and what you're doing,
absolutely.
especially with Sunshine Buns?
Yeah, I talked to you a little bit about this. I'm the youngest and I'm the only girl. So that's a double daddy's girl. And my dad was 40 when I was born. So there's a really big generational gap between him and I. And I was raised very much, you're beautiful, you're going to marry someone wealthy, and it's going to be a great life. And there's nothing wrong with that life. It was a wonderful life to be a mother and raise babies. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. It was wonderful. And, you know, I did that. I married a guy who was going to be a dentist, and I had a plan, and it fell apart pretty quickly. At 26, I found myself with a baby and alone, and I had to decide, like, I may never marry someone again, and I've got to take care of this little baby girl, and it's me and her against the world, and I had to make a decision then that I would provide, and I would figure out how to make it happen. And you know, that I ultimately did still have a dream. I did want to stay at home. Turns out that's not exactly how it evolved, but I think single mothers are extraordinary humans. I think mothers in general are like, mothers are so amazing. But single moms, I mean, there is just a strength inside of you that comes out. You know, I'd hit the pillow at 8:30 after I put Chloe to bed, and I'm like, I wouldn't wake up till the alarm went off, and it brings out an exhaustion in you, but a strength in you. It's a beautiful thing to see, and I really hope that if you're in a position to help single mothers, that you do in any way. It's our hope that when we start doing Gives Back, that we have an initiative built in for single moms and really try to take care of them. I think we also live in a unique time where we rally behind our single moms more now than ever. I didn't necessarily have that, especially in our LDS culture. There's not a ton of single moms. You know, it happens, but it wasn't on my radar. So I found myself in a unique situation where I had to pony up, you know. Grateful I did, and I learned a lot of lessons.
Thanks for sharing that,
Yeah.
Chrisi.
Yeah.
That's super meaningful, and I think that as I observe some of the heroes in my life, at the top of the list is my mother and my wife.
Right.
And as I've thought about why, it's because they have a natural gift and tendency to an ability to sacrifice for others.
Absolutely.
Not about themselves, but it's about their children and the people around them that they love. And I think that's maybe the greatest thing we could ever do in this life. But as it relates to entrepreneurship,
Right.
we know, as entrepreneurs, we know what it feels like. Some days, it is nothing but sacrifice.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't have a choice if you want your child or your creation to live on. And
Right.
you've done an amazing job of that with
Right.
all your businesses. So
Right.
so kudos to you. It's
Thank you.
no surprise to me that some of the things in your life that you've had to go through have contributed to your ability to be a successful entrepreneur.
Thank you.
You've credited mentors from Gimme Beauty and Mixers for supporting Sunshine Buns growth. So what are some of the best lessons you've learned from those mentors that you might share with the audience and other entrepreneurs in the midst or maybe wanting to start a business
Right.
as we speak?
Well, I don't know if any of you, I always have to call him out. Jeff Durham he's the GOAT of helping, especially female entrepreneurs. He is
Jeff is a remarkable person.
He is truly a remarkable person, and single-handedly, Jeff has, you know, when we started Sunshine Buns, I was connected to him, and I hadn't claimed the title as CEO yet. It was sort of like everyone knew I was, and my husband really was like, listen, I thought it was going to be him, and he's like, no, this is you. This is going to be you. He has way more corporate experience than I do, and from a leadership standpoint, I think he has great leadership skills, and I just always assumed it was going to be him. And then I got early on connected to Jeff, and Jeff was like, Chrisi, you can do this. Like, you can be this leader. You know, Matt can do it too. He can be great at this, but you can do this. And it was through my mentorship with Jeff, really, that like he kind of coaxed this CEO side out of me that I didn't really know I possessed. And his faith and belief in me, and watching Jess Tolson and the way that she has handled Mixers, they've been a great partner of ours, in the same, you know, sort of like, women can do this, and you don't have to say, I'm sorry, I'm a woman. You can use, I am a woman, which puts me at a great advantage for running this company in an otherwise attitude where you might say it doesn't. And some great advice has always been to trust your gut, always and forever trust your gut. If it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. But also, if someone tells you no, that doesn't mean no, just keep going. Jess and Jeff have both really said, just because someone said no doesn't mean no. And to always keep going, to always be vulnerable, to always help when you can, to be the best leader you can be requires that sort of selflessness in your community and making sure that people really understand that. So I think it's really believe in yourself, trust your gut, and you can do hard things. You know, those have always been really great lessons that they've taught me.
Phenomenal advice. And you can tell you've lived it. You can see it as you speak it. It's in your eyes.
Thank you.
What is next for Sunshine Buns? Where are you guys going? What do you want to do?
Buns.
What's the dream? How can the community help?
As we speak, guys, our buns are en route to the Costco buyer of Northwest region. So prayers up, hopes up. They say yes. I mean, all signs are looking like they will. So
Have
really,
the community hold your hands high for that.
I know,
one.
yeah, really, it's just some serious global bun domination. I always tell people, like, we want buns in Dubai. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, we're going global. So the idea was always to scale and sell. We, the legacy of Mima is at its heart, but we want to scale and sell. We have really high hopes of starting our own, incubators and doing our best once we sell to invest in Utah's entrepreneurial community and doing what we can to help other businesses as they're growing and, be someone else's gimme beauty. That's the real heart at the end of all of this, is that we hope to sell so that we can give back to our community. And that's, to me, what legacy is all about, is how quickly can we access capital to grow things, to sell things, to give back. So however quickly we can do that, that's sort of the goal at that point. So scale and sell. Let's get these, forget Dubai. Let's send these buns with Elon to the Mars.
Let's go to Mars and the moon and then Mars.
Right, we could be the first vendor. Like you
love
stop
this.
at Sunshine Buns. That's a great spot in Mars.
Mima
Right?
at Mars.
I mean, I'm not going to Mars. I don't think Mima's going to Mars, but Sunshine Buns are definitely going to Mars. So that's our goal, is scale and sell.
Chrisi, your energy is infectious. It's authentic.
Thank you.
It's awesome. It's not a surprise. You've made Sunshine Buns remarkable with your partners. And I love hearing, and I'm really grateful to hear you say that your goals are to accomplish a sell so that you can continue to give back to the community. And that really is, as I think about Utah and the spirit of entrepreneurship that has been here for so long, if we can stay true to those roots and stay true to how Utah was established,
Right.
the industrious culture, the beehive as our kind of symbol, and being together, it's really brilliant and beautiful. And I look forward to future years and watching you mentor other entrepreneurs yourself. And any questions?
My name and swear an oath. Okay. Yeah, my name's Steve Perry, and one of the things you said as the host here, you talked about overcoming, say, that fear or the no inside yourself. How do you do that when you've worked in a job for a long time? You've always done everything the way the man tells you to do it. How do you overcome that to actually go off and do something on your own?
You're the guest. You
All right.
answer first, then
Okay.
I'll follow.
I think, I heard something on a podcast where the host said, listen, the time's going to go by. So are you going to choose it in fear, or are you going to live it, doing the thing that you want to do? Because either way, the time is going to go by. So, early on when we first were shifting gears from franchise to wholesale, I literally brought a 6-pack of buns to Harmon's corporate. And I don't know if you guys know, but Harmon's is like the biggest deal in grocery in America. Just so you guys know that. And I literally brought a 6-pack, and I'm like, okay, I've got these cinnamon rolls. How do I get them in Harmon's? And the lady's like, we do not do it this way. And she said, this is a very complex thing. Like, I don't even know how you got up here. And I was like, well, I figured it out. And she essentially was like, no, go away. And I was like, okay, I'll go away. And then I found the Northwest region of Costco's phone number, and I called her, and she's like, I don't know how you got this phone number. It was quite sleuthy how I got it, but I did. I got it, and I called her, and I said, I've got some great cinnamon rolls. She's like, okay. I'm like, I want to get them in Costco. She's like, well, that's really complex. I was like, well, I'll figure it out. And she said, well, okay, I mean, I guess we could get them in the bakery department. And I said, and she said, but they'd be white labeled. And I said, now tell me what white label is. Of course, that's a Kirkland signature. That's what white label means. And so she explains it to me, and I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, your brand is so cute, you want to be a CPG. And if you're in CPG, you should know what that term is. And I said, sorry, now what is CPG? And this is a woman I'm trying to get to buy millions of buns from me. And she's like, listen, you're so cute, you're not ready, but let's get your gift cards in Costco. And we landed our gift cards in Costco. So listen, you're going to be told no 1,000 times. And get comfortable hearing that word, because you're going to hear it. So act in faith. Continue to go, because there will be 100 no's, and then there's gonna be one yes, and it's going to change your life. So hear the no's, accept the no's. In fact, be excited when you hear the no's. And guess what? We're in Harmons. We're gonna be in Harmons. They've picked it up. We made it. They're gonna be in Costco. So listen, you're gonna hear no, and you've gotta fight through that fear and use every ounce of faith that you possess, and just go for it.
That's a perfect answer. Though I will add two simple tips. Start.
Right.
Start. You can overanalyze and worry all day long, and you can come up with a plethora of reasons not to. But it's coming up with a core reason of why to start. Start. And then as you start and you get no's and you get hit in the face, you have all of these little choices and big choices as to how to continue, and you just keep going. Like the old adage of just keep going. I think of Dory.
Just keep swimming. Yeah,
just
just
keep
keep swimming.
There is so much brilliance to that advice, because you will screw up, you'll be told no a bunch, you're gonna look like a fool. And I think that your willingness to be really honest and open and ask for help, and Chrissy's story just now of saying, what's white label? What's CPG?
Yeah.
That's okay. It's totally okay to fail. And the last thing I'll say is, don't fear becoming childlike in the entrepreneurial journey, because those that have watched that and know what you're facing, they will want to help you, because you're being really honest and you're not pretending like you're a big deal. Just get started.
I love that.
Hi, Heather Nemelka. Chrissy, I don't know if I shared this with you, but my grandfather started Dunford Bakers.
Oh, I love that. You did not share that with me, Heather.
And so that's why I've loved following your journey, especially because at one point I wanted to, because what they did is they sold a lot of those recipes, and then somebody else has taken the name and moved on with it. But we have like hundreds of recipes from my great grandmother and my grandfather who started Dunford Bakery, and but it wasn't in the cards. Like, it just wasn't. I like to bake, but not enough to do it like you are. I'm always very curious about entrepreneurs, because I believe that to be a really great entrepreneur, when things get hard, you have to have really good habits that sustain you when things are so hard. What are some of your go-to habits as an entrepreneur that you just like every day, your daily habits or activities that you do that have served you really well as you continue this journey?
That's a great question. I take a walk every single day. It's like I'm at this point where it's non-negotiable. And it used to be that I wanted to walk with others, and now I want to walk by myself. And I want to take a break, and I want to be in nature and soak up the air and listen to the trees and throw in a podcast and really be alone and make sure that I'm prioritizing the smallest bit of self-care, because that's really not a ton. I was getting so busy with work that I was starting to hate weekends, which is not great either. And Matt was like, we gotta tone it down a little bit. Like, this can wait till Monday. And then I started telling myself internally, this can wait till Monday. And so I think those two things, making sure that if it's an hour a day, that you are alone, like that you are prioritizing being quiet and doing some self-reflecting, taking a moment to be gratitude, to live in gratitude. When I wake up in the morning, I say 5 things I'm grateful for. Before I go to bed, I think of 5 things I'm grateful for. So a little bit of self-care, which sounds cliche, but it's crucial. Take it every day. Maintain gratitude. Yesterday I was listening to a podcast where, I don't know if you guys know who Alex Hormozy is, but he's just a big business guy. And he said there are bad seasons, but there are good days and bad seasons. And there's bad days, but there's good moments in bad days. So reflect on your moments that are good, because there's going to be a lot of really, really bad, hard days in the entrepreneurial journey. So find a moment, reflect on it, remember it.
Brilliant.
No notes?
So who's your mentor when you had questions, like when you got told no by Harmons and you're like, who do I go to?
Something unique about me is that I am not afraid. I don't fear. I choose to not live my life in fear of rejection. And, that could be because I was a single mom and you've got to let go. I need so much help. Someone, please help me. So when you live in that moment of just complete aloneness and you have to rely on others, you let go of that fear. And I don't know if that's common to women, and a lot of men maybe hold on to that more. I find my husband will bang his head together before he'll ask for help. I'm like, this is so simple, let's just ask someone. And he's like, no, I'm not interested. But I don't respond to fear. And if someone says no, I'm just like, well, there's so many people that will say yes. So I have assumed people will say no, and I do not accept fear to play a role in my decision making. And it might be something unique to me, but I refuse. I just no, fear is down here, everything else is above it. I just push it down. I say no thanks. I don't know. I'm not sure, but.
That is brilliant advice, if you can figure out how to accomplish that.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I don't necessarily go to people other than myself. And I say, okay, I'm not gonna let this fear take over. Because I do think as much as a mentor can help you, that fear is a game you gotta play by yourself. And it's one that you have to use all your strength and energy and faith to overcome, is fear of rejection, and just saying, I will not allow this to control me. I choose not to.
I love that advice. You can find mentors, but Chrissy's natural intelligence to go internal is a very smart thing to learn. The habit of really internalizing, pushing your fears aside, digging really deep and conceptualizing the problem you're facing, you will be shocked at your own ability to solve, and to solve more uniquely than someone else might be able to give you advice to, because many times advice can't be hyper-specific because they're not going
Right.
through exactly what you're going through.
Right.
Getting
I completely
internal is a
agree.
really great skill.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hi.
I'm Daniel Simon. What do you think is just the best way of getting yourself out there, getting your name out there, letting people know, hey, here's what I do, and letting them know what your service is?
LinkedIn is a slept on app, my friends. If you're not on LinkedIn, I'm sure everyone here is on LinkedIn. In fact, some of us have become friends on LinkedIn. I see you here. LinkedIn is so great. I feel like it has really helped me forge a sense of community. And LinkedIn is an interesting place where all of us kind of weird misfits go together, right? Where you can say something. I was playing pickleball with a friend, and he's like, man, what you said the other day on LinkedIn was so awesome. It's just not something I could ever say on Instagram. I'm like, I know, right? You're in a safe community of kind of crazy entrepreneurs who really understand. Even if you are working for a corporation or you're kind of following a more traditional path, I think if you're on LinkedIn, you're open to community. Also, just start. You have to be willing to, if you're gonna build a product anything. If you're gonna start a business or you're gonna do anything, you have to share that business. So get very comfortable. If that makes you uncomfortable, being uncomfortable. Get comfortable sharing your story, putting yourself out there, posting every single day. Don't let days go by. Don't be nervous. Don't think, oh, but my aunt's going to see this and she's going to be cringy and she's going to be annoyed or whatever it is whatever insecurity it is that you're holding on to. Just post, post, post. Be willing to be vulnerable. Share your story and share the failures. I'm very quick to say, I messed up, or this didn't work, or, we had like a shipping disaster when we were on our way to a food show, and I shared it because people they don't just want the wins, they want to know, like, where did you fail, and what did you learn from that lesson? So be willing to be open and vulnerable and share the heck out of whatever it is that you're selling.
I'm not going to embarrass you, I promise, but you have to tell the Kevin Costner story from the show that we were at. This is a perfect example.
Oh, this is a good example, yeah.
Of overcoming fear and just being willing to put yourself out there. And this is a great example of who Chrisi is and why she is being successful in what she's doing right now is because she's just not afraid. So you need to tell that story really quick.
And that question's coming from your husband, Matt Hammer, just for the audience. Thanks, Matt.
Hammer time, that's what we call him. Okay, so we were at a food show. If you guys follow me on LinkedIn, you know the drama of the food show. But we did make it. The Buns made it successfully. It was a huge success. We're talking about getting in 2,200 Albertson stores from that show alone. So it was great. But while we were there, Kevin Costner was one of the speakers. And when he got up to speak, he said, listen, if anyone in here is making a cinnamon roll, that's my favorite snack in the whole world without raisins. So we weren't at the talk because we were at our booth. That's really only for buyers and, attendees of the show. We were at our booth and everyone's coming by our booth and they're like, you guys, Kevin Costner's here and he really loves cinnamon rolls. And he's over there. He's over there doing a photo op. And I'm like, okay, let's go give him our buns. And Matt's like, you're crazy. He usually says that, but I don't know why he hasn't caught on at this point, but he's like, you're crazy. And I was like, well, here's a camera. So we hand him the phone, we cut up a tray of buns, Cass and I, and we walk over there, and there's a line. There's 10,000 people at the IDDBA show, just to give you, so there's a line of, I don't know, probably 2,000 people waiting to take a picture with Kevin Costner, and he only had 15 minutes. And I was like, well, I'm not waiting in that line. So I went to the back, where he was, and I raised my hand, and I said, who here knows Kevin Costner? And they all look around, and they're like, who is this girl? I'm like, you? Do you know Kevin Costner? And they're starting to point, and then it's starting to cause a scene. And this guy's like, well, I know Kevin Costner. I said, well, I got a bun for him. Who are you? And he's like, well, I'm Kevin's executive producer and business partner. And I was like, great. I'm Chrisi Hammer. I own Sunshine Buns, and Kevin's got to have a bun. He's like, well, you're so spunky, I think I'm going to give him a bun. So we chatted up with him, and in the meantime, he hands me his business card and his personal cell phone, and he's like, I would love to sit down with you and talk about some ways in which, Kevin and I can be of assistance to you. And Matt's standing back there with the phone, filming this whole thing, just shaking his head. And Cass and I are very, outrageous kind of women, and our husbands are kind of quiet and confident leaders. But they're just, he's laughing, and I've got this great relationship with this guy now at this point. And then the photo op runs out, and he's like, okay, go give him your buns. So we cut the whole line, and of the 2,000, that was probably super rude, but you've got to do what you got to do. And we got him our buns, and he was like, man, these are really good buns. And we both got a hug from him. And Rob Lake, Kevin's business partner, gave me his personal card. We've been texting ever since, is super invested in our journey and is going to help us with our Walmart pitch. So again, being willing to go and open yourself up and be like, hey, who knows Kevin Costner? And, creating that relationship with his partner not only did a great photo op, because it was a great photo op. It's a great Instagram story and LinkedIn post, but it gave me a good relationship with someone that I otherwise wouldn't have met, had I not been willing to put myself obnoxiously out there. So
I want to say one thing about this that I've noted, because it's really critical. Chris, your willingness to be authentic, to just be you, is so critical. Learn to be you.
Right.
Because in being you, you will break down any barriers and bridges that would normally exist for most people. And I will tell you that anyone you talk to when you're being authentic, we humans, we just know. Somehow subconsciously we know when someone is being honest and authentic. And that vibration
Absolutely.
is so important to the human experience. So don't be scared of being you. If you're quirky and you think you're a nerd or you're weird, great. Embrace it. If you're something else, great. Embrace it. But it's really clear to me that Chrisi is not afraid of being Chrisi. And Matt's proud of that. It's obvious. It's why he wanted her to tell the story. But it's what, I can tell you, it's what's making Chrissy's life work. It's what's making Sunshine Buns work. Be you. And don't be afraid of it.
And don't be someone else's version of you. Don't fall into the man, whoever is telling you, holding you back. He's going to do him. You do you. And be authentically you, who you were before you worked at that soulless corporation.
Well said.
Don't let them turn you into whatever it is they want you to be, because that's not a fun person to be. Go back to a simpler time. Be that version of you.
Amen. Be you. What a great conversation today. Thanks again. Join me in giving a round of applause to Chrisi.
Thanks, guys. That was great.
We've been lucky to have her. Thanks again.
That's great.